How does continual learning make you an expert? Stay tuned. Welcome to this week's edition of NoteSchool TV, where, well, every Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time, we bring you the most amazing guests as well as the most amazing content. And, well, this week is no different. So let's talk about a little housekeeping before we get started. Number one, make sure and like this episode. Yep, just hit the like button. Make sure and share this with your friends, other folks in the industry. And also, if you have not already subscribed to the NoteSchool TV channel, please go in and subscribe to that. We have hundreds, literally, of past NoteSchool episodes, all amazing. And then number three, make sure and hit that bell notification so that you will be, well, notified right before we go on air live every Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time. Also, continue to send in your comments, your questions. Eddie and I love to see those. We read everything that you guys send in. It means a whole lot to us, so please continue to do that. And, well, if you would like to learn more about what we do at NoteSchool, simply go to noteschool.com/TV. Again, noteschool.com/TV. So with that, let's jump right into it. And I want to introduce NoteSchool's founder, Chief Visionary Officer, all-around great guy, my friend, Mr. Eddie Speed.
Hello, Joe.
Well, hello there, sir. It is certainly hot throughout the United States, is it not?
Yeah, to be honest with you, Texas is kind of wanting to dry out a little bit, though. We've had quite the rain.
Yeah,
you know, you can't complain about it because there's times that you don't get it, but we've had quite a wet spring, so
yeah. And we are in one of those hot and dry times right now. So, yep. Well, Eddie, that kind of leads us into today's news piece here. I found this morning, actually, as I was going through, and well, it says extreme heat will stifle U.S. economy, says a Fed study. Boy, the Fed does a lot of studies, don't they?
Yeah, in San Francisco, where the coldest winter I ever spent was a month, July in San Francisco.
Right. But it is interesting as we see. I was pulling out of the neighborhood the other day, and there were 6 guys kind of digging a trench by shovel, and it was probably over 100 degrees with the heat index. And I'm like, how in the world? But you know what we don't think about is that it's talking about this extreme heat is stifling and limiting some of the construction workers' productivity, which makes sense, right?
I can believe it. There is no doubt about it. Now, we have had a lot of rain, and so it's kind of crazy that this spring has been so wet. But I have been in other parts of the country, and you're right that and there is predicted to be another hot summer. So, yeah, I think there's something to this, Joe.
Well, there is, and I walk outside, from your office to the truck, right? And but you know, the thing of it is that you know the construction industry really is, they make a significant, the house building business and the construction industry does make us, you know, as it says, a significant contribution to our economic output. And you know, if you can build more houses, it surely helps the situation in the house industry. So I thought that was interesting, something a little bit different.
It was great catch. Great.
All right, so Eddie, I am going to jump off here, and you are going to bring on our guest today. And you and Jim have a great interview, and I'll see you guys on the back end.
That's awesome. Thank you, Joe. Well, today's interview, we are going to talk a little bit with our guest about what it's like beyond going to some initial classes. We're going to talk about what it's like to get past the 3-day class, and then like what is it like to have, as Eddie refers to, that one thin layer of paint at a time, right? And what that does, and how that really affects some of the decisions you make, some of the creativity that you have a vision for. And so you guys, I think you'll really enjoy this. And I do consider our guest to be an expert because he's been a model student, and he's smart, and he's learned a lot. You guys welcome Mr. Jim Tierman.
How's it going?
How you doing, Jim?
Good. You guys are getting heat. We're getting hail here in Denver.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, it is some crazy weather. No kidding. Like, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, the garden got a little battered the other night, but we're gonna roll with it.
Yeah, we've had quite a bit of hail damage down here in Texas too. So insurance companies, it's not a good time for them. They're kind of suffering as it is, and I think we're the ones going to suffer with them because we're going to get our premiums knocked up
exactly.
Again, right? Jim, tell us a little bit about your background. When did you join NoteSchool?
I joined in April of 2021.
Wow, right in the heart of the virus, right?
Yep. When we're all locked in home.
We were all virtual. I mean, everything was virtual then, right? No live anything.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Where do you live, Jim?
I'm in Denver, just outside
Denver.
of
One of my very favorite places to be. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm about 2 miles from Coors Field, which is where our double A team plays.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so let's talk a little bit about your investing and what you're doing today with your investing.
Well, I still have a few rentals. I have a couple in Illinois, a couple here in Denver Metro, but I'm mostly starting to look for landlords who are looking to sell, maybe on an installment sale, because I know Colorado's kind of, doing the NASCAR thing and turning left. We're getting very anti-landlord. So
yeah,
I think there's going to be some that are looking to sell here, not too distant future.
So then they would sell to you, you would get owner financing, and then you can turn around and do a wrap note.
Yes, exactly.
Got it. And we're going to talk about this as we progress a little bit, but you've also figured out for you as a landlord, it could be more economical to do something different, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. After I think I went through the 3-day class, and then I think it was the first deal lab. We have 3 of those a week, and the subject was wraps. And I was like, I could sell my rental exactly this way. This is perfect.
Exactly.
So I think I brought my rental to the next week's deal lab, and we kind of modeled it out and realized that, I can make significantly more just holding the paper versus being the landlord.
And what's interesting, Jim, the way that rates are now, you can get way bigger payment than even you did back then.
Yep.
So,
yep.
All right. So I want you to describe a little bit of your kind of initial experience. And what I'm going to say by that is it's after the 3-day class, like after you got past, really, as people would refer to it, kind of drinking water from a fire hose of what we cover in a 3-day class.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden you're inside, you're in the membership, you're inside our deal. Talk about how that looked for you.
Yeah, for me, like just going to the weekly calls. I mean, we have a call on Monday for performing notes and one on Tuesday for creative finance, and Wednesday is non-performing notes, and it's just exactly that, a fire hose. And there's so many subjects from step rate calculators to hypothecation, and it's just like, there's so many subjects, it's hard to keep track.
Well, the thing that I like about it is if you know what to ask, it lets us focus in on the piece of that you need to get clarity to. Right. And what I think I see with Jim, with a lot of people is after a little bit of time, and I don't mean months, you're listening to other people's deals, and it starts making you ask questions that you probably would have never asked the question before.
Yeah.
right?
No
You
doubt.
wouldn't have thought about asking the question.
Right.
Right.
And
All right, so
related to that too, if you do have a subject that you're trying to learn about, there's tons of archives on the website that you could just search for that term, and there's 20 weekly calls that was covered. So that's really a good way as well.
All right. So in the membership, part of the initial process, which would have been the liaison calls, the deal labs, all those kind of things. Let's talk about your baby steps there to get started. And call it the first 90 days.
Yeah. Just listening to, I think that the weekly calls, I kind of was like, okay, where am I going to focus? Am I going to focus on performing notes, non-performing, or creative finance? And since I had a rental already, I think I was kind of drawn immediately to the wraps. And so that was the kind of the creative finance path. So that's pretty much what I've focused on so far, but I also like to listen to the other ones. And now I'm actually going to buy a performing note here in the next week or two. So been working with Monica on the trade desk for that. So,
yeah, it is amazing at this timing in the market. We've alluded to this on this show before, but the timing of the market, basically you can almost always double your income on a what you're netting on a rent house versus owner financing.
yep.
Now, a lot of the time, Jim, it's almost like you can almost triple your income, your net income on a rental versus owner financing the same property.
Yeah, it's crazy. The couple rentals we have here, we're looking at like, okay, when does the lease expires? We might do that as well. I think, and actually the one I sold in Chicago, when we brought it to the deal lab, not only did I increase my monthly income, but we realized that if that note goes 30 years, I would make like 300 grand. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We've built some financial modeling. We show this in our classes.
Yeah.
And that is, people say, well, I don't want to sell my rental because I don't get appreciation. And we're like, oh, no. You'll get way more money than you ever would in appreciation.
Yeah, you get it back a lot faster too, because
and you don't have to sell your stock to get paid, right?
Yeah.
The joke about buying a stock is if it goes up in value, well, you can't get paid until you sell it.
Right.
You can't get paid for appreciation, and in the same way, right?
Yep.
Except you can when you create a note. And a lot of people will argue this, but I tell you, I've pulled this math out with some very, very seasoned landlords on a regular basis. And at the end, they're pretty much like, okay, Eddie, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit first about, the learning curve, right? And that always scares people because we always want to learn something new, but we're always scared what the learning curve is going to look like. Right. And so I know it's been, back in 2021. So it's been a while for you back, but do you remember what that felt like in the first 90 days?
Yeah, it was just like, it was so much information. It was almost hard to, focus on one area. So I finally did kind of narrow it down to that creative finance. But, I could still go back today and say, well, I want to learn those other paths as well. So those are still out there.
Yeah, I think it's the first 90 days is about priorities, right? There's so many paths, there's so many things you can do. Then it becomes a matter of your story, your situation, your time, right? And then that lets you focus on the right thing. So you have mentioned the deal labs. I love the deal labs, right?
Yep, they're great.
You've mentioned the deal labs a few times, and you, as I said earlier, it's that one thin layer of paint at a time, right? Because that's really what it is, right? Yeah. You can't, there's no chip you can put in somebody's arm, right? But I love them because they're just fun. They're real deals and real stories and real situations.
Yeah. And what's nice too is if I'm on a call and somebody else is presenting something that, I can chime in and ask, well, how does this work? And you can answer that. I don't have to go on the internet and look for an expert on that subject or, wait a month for my local RIA to get that question answered. It's right then.
Well, and a lot of times it's very specialized, right? The things that we have spent thousands of hours learning aren't necessarily something that the local RIA would have would necessarily have the answer to.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So do you feel like the deal labs really shortened your learning curve or the time it took?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
They
say that that's what, Jim, they say that that's what people want the absolute most, is they want a compression of time.
Yeah. And, just comparing it to other, trainings, it's once that training is over, you're done. I mean, you don't have access to that person anymore. And with the deal lab, I can ask you questions 3 times a week.
I know I enjoy it so much. I sort of stumbled into this method of training, but it's turned, and I've changed it a lot over the years. I've been doing it almost 25 years, but I've changed it a lot. But I love what we do. I look at somebody when they're at a certain point after they finished a class and they're kind of here, and then literally 9 months later, I've got them here, right? Mm-hmm. Drastically more. Because you can't be creative if there's no base of knowledge.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I thought, when I was selling that property in Chicago and brought it on the deal lab, there was always the thought in the back of my head, well, just sell it for cash, get a realtor. And I thought, I'm not going to learn anything if I do that. So,
Jim, I was kind of tallying up the other day, the specific deal lab that focuses on selling your property on your creative terms. And I was trying to think how many case studies we've done in the last 12 months because of higher interest rates, because people are netting less money on a rental. In other words, their rent rose like this, but their expenses rose like this, right? Yep. In other words, and people are netting less money on the same rental. Like it's, and that's what the landlords are telling us. Like, we're not putting that in their head. They're telling us that this is my story over and over and over. And the thing that I think of is, like, I don't know how many deals we've been able to pull onto the deal lab and do it. And yours was one of the early adopters, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Do you like managing rentals?
No, I do not.
You don't?
No, they're a pain.
Are you saying it's easier to own a note?
Absolutely. I think you could own probably 20 times as many notes for the same brain power as one rental.
Yeah, I tell people it's 10-1, and I've been corrected quite a lot.
Yeah.
They said that's not extreme enough.
It's nice just getting that monthly deposit.
Yeah.
No hassles.
No, it's and once again, for those of you that don't, we're speaking a little bit too bit encrypted code. The deal lab are where our members come in and they make a submission. So there's a prepare for the professor process that they do ahead of time. And people like Jim do a really good job of giving us the information. If you have limited information, you probably have limited, ways of being creative. But if you have it all done correctly, like you have, Jim, and what I hope now, Jim, we're at a point where it's like maybe you're 88% there, right? Mm-hmm. We can still help you with that 12 or 15%.
Right.
But if you're 88% there with a creative strategy, right? That's what I said. Like it's practice and exposure now makes you an expert. I bet you, Jim, that you are excessively more knowledgeable in the subject than just about any of your other real estate and buddies around and where you live.
Yeah, because I think they're still focusing on the rental part, and there's that whole other half of the financing part that NoteSchool has opened my eyes to.
Yeah. I'm not always down on rentals. There's a rent cycle and there's a note cycle.
Yeah.
And I think when we do this math that you've now seen us do over and over and over, we're in a note cycle, right?
Yeah. And I think the burned out landlord thing is coming to fruition here, because not only are they tired of managing those, but there is a ton of buyers who can't get bank financing who have money. But they would love to buy some of those properties.
Yeah, I mean it's the left behind factor today is, you've seen us do these stats a lot. Before the virus, let's just say that the day the virus started, February of 2020, the mortgage underwriting, they have an index, right? The index was at 185. Today, that same underwriting index is at about 90.
Yeah.
That means half the people that could have qualified for a conventional mortgage then can't today. That's the left behind factor.
Yep. And they're forced to rent, and they would probably rather be homeowners for the, if they could get a decent price.
Yeah. All right. So this isn't your full-time gig, right?
It is now, because I retired from my corporate job back in the fall.
That's right. You did.
Yep.
You did.
So I just been screwing around and golfing for 6 months, and now I gotta.
So you did what a lot of people love to want to be able to do, is to get yourself positioned where you could walk off your corporate job.
Yeah. So I need to find some burnout landlords, and I'll be rolling.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about a little bit about the vendors, right? That's a big thing that people don't realize is there's a vendor network that gives you confidence and security in knowing that you don't have to go do everything yourself, right?
Yeah. And I used a few of those. I used Baldwin Advisory Group. Like, once my rental was empty, they went in and cleaned it. They changed the locks. They secured it. They put a digital lockbox on there, so when I had, possible buyers, that they could go see it. And they also did some BPOs for me, so I had a good, basis for a sell price.
A lot of people don't realize, Jim, that even exists.
Yeah.
So that particular end of the vendor network, that's called property preservation.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically they can go in and clean up a house, or they can fix a leak, or they can winterize it.
Yep.
They can go lock all the doors. They can do whatever it is you need done. And it doesn't take your key to unlock the door, and it doesn't take your boots to walk on the front porch, right?
Right. Exactly. And then another vendor I used was Call the Underwriter. Once I got a buyer, they were able to, go through all their income and, verify their ability to repay, so you're in compliance with Dodd-Frank. And
yeah,
so I wouldn't.
And you just have, not only are you compliant, which is a big thing, but you have an underwritten loan,
mm-hmm.
right? You're acting like a bank.
Yep, exactly.
But you had an underwriting department,
mm-hmm.
right? And so I agree with you. Like, that is those are the kind of things that when you learn to utilize those tools, you start realizing you can, the old saying, you can be a small company that does big business.
Yeah. Yep.
So it seems to be a lot to that.
And another thing with vendors too, we have that private Facebook page. You could always ask, does anybody know whatever in this metro area? And somebody from NoteSchool is probably there and could help you figure that out.
Yeah, our private Facebook page really has turned into being quite an opportunity for all of us, right?
Yep.
People just throw it in there and they say, I've got this situation. We can decide at that point, okay, everybody, come in with some collaboration, and then maybe we finish it off on a deal lab, or maybe we solve it right then. Maybe it's just, hey, I need an attorney in North Carolina, or, I need this or that and stuff. And it definitely makes it to where it's not just a network of like-minded people. It's a network of like experienced people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you had this problem in Denver, or you had this problem in Illinois, and otherwise you told somebody else how to solve it.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So the thing that I really, really like about your story is that you did put yourself in a position for several years where you did have a full-time corporate job, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So this turned out to be a better part-time investing strategy than rentals.
Oh yeah, for sure. Just because the hassle factor is so much less. I mean, once you sell it, I mean, you're not responsible for management, maintenance, taxes, insurance. You're just getting a check every month, and that's it. You can do a lot of those.
All right. So you've alluded to something that I've been really, really working up for you guys. And that is soliciting burnout landlords.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to circle back around and draw a little detail to that for our audience. Like, what do you mean? How does that work?
Well, for me, being in Denver, I think, like I was mentioning, kind of the legislation that's kind of getting anti-landlord. And I think there's a lot of landlords who have owned for, 10 or 15 years that have made a lot of equity, but it's a hassle, and it's getting to be more of a hassle, and they would be fine with getting monthly income. They just don't want to own it anymore. So in that case, you can buy from them and then turn it around and sell it to one of these people who can't get a bank loan, and they'd be super happy to get into a house.
And they have a lot better chance of having way more net income from that than they can on a rental.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. No doubt. And that was evident in my case.
Yeah. Well, we're really excited about that. The market conditions for that have become pretty amazingly high.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're really excited as this thing progresses as to what that's going to look like going forward. All right, Jim, I want to talk to you a little bit. Like, I'm getting started. I'm trying to progress in the business. I'm interested in notes. I may be interested in NoteSchool. What would you say to me?
I would say attend the 3-day class, because in my case, I was so focused on the one side of the business, rentals, that I was kind of blind to the whole financing side. And that's a whole nother world. So go to the 3-day class, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we don't know what we don't know until we know it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And we're a specialist. We've been doing a specialist industry for a long time. So we've really thought about this, and we've gotten to be fairly creative in learning how to do it. And we see it all the time. It's so fun for us, because we do this 3-day class and we see the light bulb come on with somebody.
Yeah,
right?
I remember sitting there and they were talking about partials, like buying a note and then selling part of it and kind of recouping all your funds, but still having the back half of the note.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? It was such a new concept.
Yeah, I've been doing partials, as you know, for a long, long time, but I have never gotten tired of seeing people the first time they see how the math works.
Yep.
The
same way.
You buy that. Yeah, I use my little pencil here, right? You buy that whole stream of payments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say that's 20 years. And then you sell off, maybe half of it, maybe 10 years, maybe 12 years, but about half. And you get virtually all of your money back. And you own the back side of that note, the back payments of that note, with almost no money invested. And people are like, what?
Yeah. I think you used the pizza analogy for the 3-day class.
I love the pizza analogy. I do. Yeah.
Buy the whole pizza for $6 and then sell 3 slices for $2 a piece. And then you still have a half a pizza.
Yeah. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it works. So Jim, it's been awesome. I'm so glad to get to know people like you. In this membership thing, we get to know each other well. We get to be a family, and there's just some real value behind it. There's an ecosystem that means a lot to us, and seeing you guys are a part of that ecosystem. You're helping our members, like you're helping your fellow members in the business. And by the way, Jim, you're inspiring them, because you've done a lot of things that people want to go do more of, right?
Yep. Well, thanks for having me. Hopefully I'll have another deal on the Deal Lab here soon.
Joe?
Yes, sir. So, Eddie, they do remember those analogies, the pizza and all those other things, right?
They really do. They really do.
It's just, it's just the regular stuff. So I was reading, and the whole passive income, right? And you know, selling your rentals and all that. So I'd read a Warren Buffett quote that I had never seen before, and I'm going to read it. It says, "If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die." Now that's a little morbid, right? But it's true, right? You've got to have something that comes in, or you just have to get out every day and go stroke it, right?
Yeah, you heard him say that he's playing a lot of golf, didn't you, Joe?
I
You did hear that part.
I didn't say well. I said playing a lot of golf.
All right. Well, Jim, thanks so much. And so Lockheed Martin, they're making it okay without you, huh?
I think so. I think they're still making those $1 million toilet seats. So I think
Okay.
it'll be okay.
Jim worked for Lockheed for many years there. So, yep, very good. Thanks so much, Jim. We appreciate you. We appreciate you being our guest. And guys, that is it for today. Again, another great episode. We appreciate you. If you want more information on, about NoteSchool and what we do, simply go to noteschool.com/TV. We'd love to have you come to one of our master classes, followed by one of our 3-day classes. So thanks so much, and have a great rest of your week.
Yeah.